Okay, here's my walkthrough of Starlight. A few notes before I head through it. First, on the population size of my settlements, the majority of them were 24. That's the default population. If there's a companion in one of them, for instance, Kate was in Red Rocket, the population was 25, so it just added on top of it. But a couple of them have an extra 10, and Starlight is one of them. So its population is actually 35 because it also contains one of my companions and one of the 4 humanoid companions who I actually regularly travel with, Gage. He wears a slightly different outfit. He wears a Vault 101 outfit as well because he's one of my 4 humanoid companions. So we'll eventually stumble into him here. So originally it was an independent settlement. Basically the back half here was a little walled off community, and it was one of the more successful ones. And obviously got taken over by the pack, although it just kind of happened to work out for the sole survivor, who happens to be the leader of the Red Rocket Militia, of course. That Starlight and a couple of the other places were actually thinking about going independent, and they were kind of being pulled away by, they didn't realize it, but some former members of the Institute and some other mischievous groups, and who really wanted to take over these places for themselves. So the pack has come in, and they drove some people off, they killed some people, and they've taken some people captive. But I think it's all, really for the greater good, because obviously the sole survivor is also the overboss, so they kind of made it happen. Unlike all the other settlements, the pack really don't ascribe to wearing any particular outfits. So the moment they're away from any of their stations, you can't tell which one any of them are. Like most of the other settlers wear specific hats for specific jobs and specific outfits, but the pack just aren't like that. They also don't have any walls around their settlement, which makes them quite a bit different from the other settlements. So this, what was originally the independent settlement here, has now kind of become the prison of the remaining survivors. They're either farming or running some shops for them.
You a sheep?
The pack kind of likes the novelty.
The pack only runs with wolves.
I just can pretend they didn't say that. But they are all wearing bomb collars, I like to pretend. So occasionally they're actually allowed 1 or 2 at a time to leave here and go trade with other independent settlements, so they can replenish their supplies. But they just set their bomb collars to go off after 3 or 4 days if they don't return at that time, or if, of course, if they're played with. So they're quite. The pack isn't great with a lot of technology, but they've really figured out the bomb collar. Got a pick-me-up station in the background. It's also one of the reasons why the Red Rocket Militia has not tried to take back the area yet, or at least one of the reasons given was that all the survivors will be dead by the time they do, seeing as they're wearing explosive collars.
Water, ever hear of it?
So let's head inside. A couple workstations.
Hard not to
These are chemistry stations that came along with the mod. I quite like them. Little living area for the slaves there. Up to the farming spot. And all the way up here, a couple of them can kind of huddle up and see over to the arena that the pack built with some of the building supplies they had. Because when they attacked, they were in the middle of building a much larger facility on the other side there, using the still standing screen. So the pack pulled down a bunch of these railroad cars to use as basic lodging when they after they invaded. They all kind of like having their own little spots. Being the leader of all their own little packs the pack as a whole is sort of spread out everywhere, and lots of little leaders. And this is one of the bigger hubs where they can come to peacefully trade, get information, sometimes work along with the bigger groups.
The pack lets it all hang out.
It's the little battle arena. I had a much bigger one once in a previous one, but I never really used it, so it's pointless. They like to throw people or creatures in here. There's a variety of things people can use to fight, but there is still some radiation. And rats. So in general, not somewhere you want to end up in. Should the fight go on too long, one of the pack members can jump in this ridiculous horse armor and jump in and put a finish to it. For the most part, the pack uses this shielded raider armor that I added with the mod. Occasionally you'll see them in other stuff, T60, any of the other varieties, but generally they lack the knowledge to maintain it, so it'll just fall apart. Whereas this is slightly improved, I like to pretend slightly improved raider armor that they are generally able to maintain themselves. So, one of my mini bases is here because this is where I keep one of, like I said before, one of my 4 companions, Gage. He's got the Vault 101 jumpsuit, and he's got a combination of all the Nuka World Raiders armors. He's got some Operator, Pack, and Disciple stuff on, as well as a ridiculously reinforced cap.
I want to trade a few things.
Of course.
So this isn't his actual specialized rifle that I'll show you that in a sec. Each of my 4 humanoid companions carries one of these. And I don't know, I find it's just a nice, well-balanced weapon. It's got conventional energy and radiation damage, so it affects most things pretty well. Even things that improve from radiation or neutral to it. But mainly I have the plasma, the plasma legendary, just because it makes it easy to find my companions when they're out there and see where they are. And they got a cap with a ballistic weave that adds a lot of damage resistance. So all my companions, the 4 of them, all use this shark armor that has legendary sprinting on the legs, so they go 20% faster, just so they can actually keep up with me. I use the blue quantum armor. That's my go-to. I have several sets of it. When I get like a special weapon, I put it up one of my bases. I actually have and I'll obviously show it at some point, in the Mechanist layer is where I keep the majority of the stuff I've actually collected in the game. I got 3 giant walls full of weapons and a variety of other things. So these are more like mini bases. But when since setting them up, I've collected things nearby. I bring them here. I have a variety of notes and miscellaneous stuff that I just throw into these cabinets, as well as copies of all the games in these mini bases. And the comics are spread out amongst them. I think I essentially have 7 bases, maybe, overall. Yeah, that seems right. So the comics are spread out across all 7 of them. And here is Gage's original armor. And I realize now I actually have it in my inventory. This is Gage's special weapon. You know, it is, I think the name explains it all, basically. And when he's not traveling with me, by all means, he's free to use it. Just some places to toss armor and other miscellaneous stuff I pick up along the way, and I don't know what to do with yet. I don't like to spread it out too far, so only in these like 7 bases do I really ever dump anything. So if I'm ever looking for anything, I know it's definitely in one of 7 spots. And that is that. All right now. Got some pick-me-up stations. So, Tunnel Snakes. Here's another group. They were added with the Creation Club. Now there are 4 Tunnel Snakes, I want to say, out there. And yeah, this one is a pack member. And, you know, I mean, I guess the snake's an animal, so that should count anyway. But nobody messes with him, you know. He just wandered into Starlight one day wearing Hellfire armor. And he seems quite terrifying. And
If you're wearing a collar, it's because you asked for it. Ain't no one's a slave that don't want to be.
nobody really questions him. They do have, oh, here we go. So these specialized 10 millimeters also came along with them, but I renamed them all after members of the Tunnel Snakes from Vault 101. Deloria, obviously, being their leader. And nobody really knows what they're up to. I mean, some people do, but... So, this guy over here selling gear. Got some of it on display. Note fitter, same thing. Armor dealer over here. And weapons dealer. Some more armor. Alright. So we got a little bar area and chem dealer. Slot machines. And then they can wander out here, sit down, and take in a fight. Some more defense. I'll just drop off of here. There is one more captive in here, but they didn't take this captive when they were when they took Starlight. They took him when they were just out on a random mission. He gets special treatment. He works as their doctor. Still has to wear a collar. And of course the top. Not much up here, of course. Falling warning. One of the ways into my base, I guess. Yeah, my mini base there. If you're brave enough, you can do that up top here. And yeah, so I think that's about the whole thing. Next we'll be moving on, I think I'm going to do a short video on some of the impacts of the raiders here. Ten Pines, Drumlin Diner, and maybe another spot or two. And then after that we'll move on to Sunshine, where the operators are set up, but they have gone more legitimate and are now trying to encourage people to come visit Nuka World on holiday, you know, kind of like a New Vegas for this area.